We're live on
It
every
was
day.
about 3 months ago.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, June 3rd, 7 p.m., Cohasset Board of Selectmen. I'd ask everybody to stand and pledge of allegiance. For the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start the meeting off with any public comment. Okay, absent any public comment, we'll move on in the agenda. First thing we have is Coral Grande, who's here to present something from Cohasset Elder Affairs. Come on up.
Thank you very much. As you probably know, April was Volunteer Appreciation Month, and we ended the Appreciation Month with a wonderful luncheon at Atlantica. A little before that, though, I just need to back up for a second and tell you that I'm sure I'm not saying anything that you don't already know, but volunteers are the backbone and the glue of any organization. It's great to have staff, but without volunteers, you're very limited in what you do. The mission of Elder Affairs is to provide services, programs, and activities to seniors to keep them in their homes as long as possible, but also to keep them connected to their community in any way possible. We can't do it all by ourselves, and we rely heavily on volunteers to do this. And the thing that's so interesting is that Cohasset is very blessed because we have a very active community. We have people who volunteer for all kinds of different organizations, and Elder Affairs is no exception. But the thing that is very interesting is that we have 215 volunteers. We have 7 volunteers who work almost 40 hours a week for our benefit. We have 9 volunteers who work almost 20 hours a week. So the sum of all of this is that the number of volunteer hours in 2013 was 11,100 hours. And that, my friend, is a lot of volunteer hours. We run 21 different programs in all kinds, shapes, and sizes, but it takes these volunteers to make sure that it really and truly happens. We always say that we try to keep people in their homes, but the truth is we can't do it alone. We need these volunteers, and they step up time and time again, and I'm sure you all know these people, you're part of these people, and so we, once a year, as part of my annual report to the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in Boston, I have to compile a list of all of the volunteers, all of the services that they provide, all of the hours that they work, and then I have to put a value on these hours. And these hours are computed anywhere from $8.50 an hour up to $20.85 an hour. And this is all by a formula that's established for us by the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. So this is not a capricious amount that we've arrived at. It's been a very thought out process, and it's something that just is the tip of the iceberg in terms of Elder Affairs. So with that, I presented the check to our town manager, and I was hoping maybe he would do the honors to help me present it to the Board of Selectmen. And this check represents not hours and a monetary value of money saved by the town, but what we gave to the town. And this check is in the amount of $194,818.45, and it represents 11,100 hours of service. So we'd like to present this to the town of Cohasset.
We applaud. That's fabulous.
And I just want to say it was a great opportunity when I was up at the Elder Affairs Volunteer Appreciation Lunch to receive this. Again, it's a testament to the town as to how many people give so much of their time to programs like this, and it really does make it go. So it really was a great event, and this is just it's a great symbol of,
That's
of the
fabulous.
community.
Do you mind turning around so our audience can just take a look at it? Very impressive. We like big checks.
Yeah.
We give it to Erin. She can put it on the
Yeah.
front page.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Coral, do you mind just sitting for 1 second? I just want to ask a question that other members may want as well. But because you said it kind of encompasses, could you just describe some of the volunteer services that go into those 11,100 hours?
Oh, sure. We have people who deliver meals 5 days a week. Actually, we provide meals 7 days a week, but they're actually delivered 5 days a week. We have people who serve lunches 3 days a week. We have people who grocery shop, do escort shopping. We have volunteer van drivers. We have people who provide volunteer transportation for people. We have people who serve as volunteer instructors. We have people assisting seniors in all kinds of ways. People who make home visits, people who do telephone reassurance.
Well-being checks,
So
things
yeah, all
like
kinds
that
of
during.
well-being checks, and especially during any kind of an emergency, I really depend on our volunteers to help us make these well-being checks, because we have 110 people on our list right this moment, and it's interesting that you bring that up because Mary Goodwin, Nancy LaFosse, and myself sat down and went over that list again to make sure that it's always up to date. The list represents the frailest people in Cohasset and people who need additional assistance from time to time. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we know who in the community needs this additional assistance. But when the emergency occurs, I really depend on volunteers to help us do that, because it's tough making 110 phone calls.
That's right. Great. Does anybody have anything else?
Just a note of thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's great.
Thanks.
Wonderful numbers.
We'll talk soon.
Okay, definitely.
We got off to a really quick start. If anybody has public comment, now would be a good time to speak. If not, we'll ease into our next agenda item. So I think we can start the Red Lion Inn. We have a posted hearing time for 7:10, but we have some matters that we can discuss prior to that.
The clock is a little slow.
And it is a little slow. Thank you. Charlie, you want to come on up?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Charles Humphreys. I'm an attorney here tonight representing the Red Lion Inn. With me is Herbert Luchins, who is the proposed general manager, who's been working with the company for approximately a month now and is doing some very
That's
effective
terrific.
work.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. You'll
sit
hear
down.
about this when we actually have a hearing.
Okay, yeah.
But he's got a long and successful history of over 20 years as the general manager of the Harvard Faculty Club and
That's
other
terrific.
similar things. So I just wanted to introduce him to it
Oh,
because
absolutely.
we've had some gaps and we've had some procedural issues.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight simply to request a continuance. By the way, congratulations, Kathy. Thank you. Also on your chair.
Thank you.
There is a 2-week continuance on the hearing on this, and I just want to explain what has occurred and where we are.
Okay.
Historically, the Red Lion has filed requests for change of managers, and they did that again this time. However, I believe it was Jennifer, or I think it was Jennifer, who looked up some of the records and found out that the actual underlying officers and directors had changed over the years, but those hadn't been reflected. So she contacted me last week and said, by the way, in addition to the change of manager, you've got some required changes of officers and directors. I didn't represent
Okay.
the company during any of this. I'm
Okay.
just really recently on board to try and straighten out all of this.
Yeah.
I, in fact, did get the required votes to change the manager and have, in fact, changed them with the Secretary of State. I'll just put that in the file because that was something And so we do have new officers and directors. However, we also need to have approval of those officers and directors by the ABCC. It's kind of the parallel filing with this.
Sure.
And we got those names of all the parties. I prepared the papers to file with the ABCC, and I found upon filing that they now require a certificate of good standing. Now, the accountant and Ms. Volheim are out of the country. The accountant will be back tomorrow. They will file for the company, according to the finance people I've talked with, is qualified, but it needs a certificate of good standing. That's a condition
That's something
preceding.
from the state?
Yes, but that's what the state now does on all of its licenses,
Okay.
which is a fairly new requirement. It's all part of the collection process, make sure everybody's paid their taxes
Sure.
and do what they have to do. That may have been filed for today, but it will be filed for tomorrow. But it's going to take, they're really very good, but it's going to take still 2, 3, 4 days to have it.
Okay, so we should anticipate that we'd get it, though, in
Well
sufficient time
before
for
a
the
2-week
the
continuance.
2-week continuance.
Okay,
And our next
and
meeting
see
is
what
the 17th.
and also, Mr. Senior also requested that he'd like to see all of this stuff a little bit early because he wanted to have it reviewed by, number one, anyone who wanted to look at it, but secondarily, I think he wanted to run it by his licensing inspectors.
And the board would want to have it in it before, we usually get our
Likewise.
packets, as long as we have it by Friday, is it the 13th?
Well, as soon as,
That's all right,
the sooner
we
the
all
better.
have to work
I'm not
on it, so it's,
suspicious. Yeah,
The sooner the better, I think.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
circulate
Well,
it.
as soon as, we're gonna file the minute we get the
Once we have it, terrific.
certificate of standing.
Okay.
So that's really, we're requesting this hearing go over to that date, and if you have a time, we'd appreciate it.
Sure, so just a couple things I want to ask. So basically, we anticipate having all the paperwork that's necessary for us to address the
All the
corporate
votes have been done,
directorship.
all the forms, it's missing this
It's
one
just
document.
that rubber,
Yeah.
kind of rubber stamping, and then we can do the hearing for the change in manager.
Yes, well, I think, I actually think that it is a change of officers and directors too. So I think, if the ABC takes cognizance of that, I think you must also.
Oh,
No,
we
no,
would be
no,
due.
the hearing, they were,
It's a two-step process,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
No, go ahead.
First they have to have the application, and then they're gonna vet that.
Yeah.
Then they'll go to the change of manager.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so yes, they are gonna take it publicly, but it's
Yeah.
not, it's not.
We can
it's
all
a
do it,
different
we'll
process.
do it on that night.
Correct,
Yeah, you
they
do the same.
meaning us,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. I just wanted to
The
check.
licensing board can do it the same.
So we're gonna do a hearing on 2 issues, one, the change of directors, and the other, the change of...
Officers and directors.
Officers and directors.
yeah,
No, I understand. And on your package here, there's a checklist that had all, and you have all the documents for the change of managers checklist.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's also-
I will just say this to you, those came back electronically,
Right.
and they were terribly distorted, so they're being DHL from, some of the checklists, you need corporate votes.
Right.
Yeah.
So just as long as you have everything that's on that
Yes.
checklist, and there's also a separate checklist for a change of officers that
Yes.
right. So
Yeah.
that's the one I think that includes the good standing certificate and
Yes.
maybe something else.
Yeah.
Just as long as before you come back here, we are gonna have all those documents before we do that, so that
Yes.
we can then do both hearings at the
Yes.
same time. Is that the idea?
And get beyond this, yes.
Yeah, that sounds.
Can you simply describe the nature of the change of officers and directors? As you point out, many of those files weren't updated prior, as they should have been.
I cannot explain the original. I can explain the changes.
That's, at the
Okay.
moment, that's what I'm looking for.
What's happening here is a couple of starting points. Number one, the alcoholic beverage license must be owned by and controlled by a U.S. citizen.
Right.
And what we needed to do is to place Mr. Luchins in as the president and secondarily as a general manager holding the license, administering the license. who had exclusive control over that in terms of the statutory language. In addition, we had to replace corporate officers, no great concern to you, but directors and treasurer. Okay, and we've appointed a treasurer,
The corporate structure, though, is of interest to the licensing board.
and
that's
this is
why
it
I'm
right
asking.
here. This is why I brought this in.
We'll have that.
Yeah, this is not the formal filing, I don't wanna, I mean, I'll, so he just gave us.
I'm asking the question because in the past, we've had documentation that showed Mr. Ortelheide as either an owner or a proprietor.
Yeah.
And my question then is, where is he in the corporate structure
He
now?
is not in the corporate structure anymore. He can't be in the corporate, well, he could be. He can hold a minority interest, but he's not in it. He's merely the owner of the real estate and the stockholder, but he cannot, he's not an officer or manager or director of the corporation.
I don't wanna go too far down this road because this is.
No, but
this
in
is a
answer to your question,
conversation.
that's the
I-
distinction that must be made.
But at the very basis of it, that's the nature of the question that will come before us. and that's why I'm
Absolutely,
asking for
absolutely,
clarification.
absolutely, we'll have the paperwork. The only other thing is, I just wanted to mention, because it was mentioned earlier at another meeting, that I know that your client has paid some of the money owed to the town, but I would hope that that could be resolved before we open the hearing up for the police details.
Well, I would imagine that would have an effect on a certificate of good standing, otherwise.
But the certificate of good standings from the Department of Revenue.
It's money owed us.
It's money.
No, it's not the same.
Yeah.
The certificate of standing would be hotel, meal, sales, employee benefits. That's what that's all
Right,
about.
right.
State collections.
Well, fair enough, but from our standpoint, I sure would like to see the business in good standing.
It's a very minor point, I'm sorry, but on your resolution, you cite chapter 156B. Is it not, isn't that obsolete, isn't D the chapter?
All depends on how old the corporation is.
So you go back to it because it was before 2003.
Yeah. I believe that's the reference to that, yeah.
So my understanding is we just need to open the hearing, and then we'll ask for a second motion after that to continue the hearing for 2 weeks. So is there a motion to open the hearing on the Red Lion Inn?
So moved.
Change of manager?
Seconded.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of opening the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was 5-0, I think. And then a motion to continue the hearing to Tuesday, June 17th at probably 7:10
We'll do the same time.
again, if that works for you
Correct.
and your client. Yep.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so any discussion on continuing the hearing to Tuesday, June 17th at 7:10 PM? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Pleasure
Welcome to
meeting you.
Cohasset.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We anticipated a full hearing, so we're a little ahead of schedule. If the Carriage House Nursery School representatives are here and are able to come on up, we'll take you now. It's 7:20. And this is just very simply a change of location request.
Yes, and also a rain date request.
Okay.
Really
Oh,
hope we
no.
don't need here.
And
The weather, yeah, the weather forecast
Looks
looks good. But,
Could you just introduce yourselves for the
Sure.
record and your address, please?
I'm Margie Brown, 275 Jerusalem Road.
Okay.
And Pat Baird, 55 Redgate Lane.
Thank you.
And as you already know, we'd like to move the June 7th Family Fun Day from the common to the field behind the library. And the library is aware of it and is comfortable with it, as is our World Children's Museum. And we've been working with Mark Kelly about the electricity, and we're gonna use the Music Circus for overflow parking. And Sergeant Tringer is getting us a police detail and a sign, which will be in the upper parking lot of the library. Since they're open, the upper parking lot should be saved for library clients. And I have also tonight the insurance binder for the town of Cohasset, since that is town land.
Thank you.
Given.
And then, should we just whisper? Rain date.
We'd like to do it the next day, Sunday the 8th.
And that date has been cleared with the library as well?
Yes, all the,
They're closed that day, so
That would
we'll
actually.
have we can use the parking up above.
Okay. Terrific. Anybody have any comments?
This children's thing, is there a, isn't a balloon, there's a bouncing balloon?
Bouncy house.
Bouncing house, it's been a while, sorry, yeah, you have a bouncing house there?
I believe so, but I'm gonna refer to our
Lynn,
director,
would you come up?
who knows the most about the
She's in charge of
different-
bouncing houses?
She's in charge of bouncy houses.
Yes, there is one balloon bounce and there's one obstacle course bounce.
So I saw the 60-minute show the other day, which you probably saw, where 2 little kids went floating away in the bouncy house. So obviously, is this being well secured, and you're somebody
State
there, is
inspectors
it well secured to the ground?
These are
and so forth?
commercial bounce houses, whereas my understanding of the other one was it was a independently purchased one, or smaller scale, with small spikes that stick in the ground. These are very large metal spikes that
Well
stick
seen.
well into the
And
ground.
you have the state inspectors.
And the state comes and inspects it, yes.
beforehand.
Okay, just on it.
We all saw that.
Yeah, boy, that was unsettling, huh? All right, any other comments? Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to change the location to the library backfield parking lot of the Carriage House Nursery School Family Fun Day on June 7th, and also to add a June 8th rain date. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
May the sun
Thank
shine
you.
upon you.
Thank you.
So much for good planning with the timing, right? Kind of moving fast. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the application form, which we got in our packet. Tracy had some comments from some of the board members as well as some of the committee. I believe they went out to all the committee heads. Is that right, Tracy? Everybody that was on your email distribution. So I just handed out just a revised first page, just so everything would fit and without a lot of the text at the top. And we added the I am seeking reappointment line.
And you brought up, are you going to do this also?
In the back,
Okay.
the back would remain the same, except we made one spelling, there was one typographical error. So the back would remain the same. So I want to sort of just, if anybody has any last minute input and discussion, I'd love to get this approved and.
Just formatting.
Yeah, I saw that, yep. There's some form, Chris, I think I gave you the copy that had the formatting issues. No, just,
Yes, I noticed.
right, we'll make sure Tracy gets that too.
Excuse me.
Anything else?
I think this is fine.
Maybe a little, I'm getting more sensitive
long
as
ago.
my eyes start to slowly fade.
Right.
Probably should make it a slightly larger type.
As long as you have all of it.
Well, and we have a little more room on the front page that we
Yes.
didn't have prior, so, you know, and then, like anything else, we can edit this if we find out it doesn't
Yeah.
serve whatever purposes we need.
Are we gonna discuss how this is gonna be promulgated? 1 and 2, I wanted to discuss at some point when the selectmen will be able to get a report on who is applying for these positions and so forth. It's not a little
So
separate
we'll
from
talk
that.
about that tonight, yeah, we
Tonight,
definitely
okay.
wanna talk about, what I wanna do is approve this form, get it as the official form, get it online. And then have another general discussion, but I'm hoping at our next meeting, it's gonna be busy, hang on, I'll get you.
Yep, that's fine.
That we'll go through everything, we'll go through the charges, we'll go through what committee, some of these committees need to be recharged, some of them that are on the books need to be sunsetted officially, so we're gonna get clear on all the committees at our next meeting, and then we will get all the applications, all the people that have applied for a job, applied for a committee position,
So we're gonna
throughout the
discuss
next
that
couple of
tonight?
weeks.
Are we gonna discuss that
We're
tonight?
gonna
I wanna
discuss-
just discuss the process.
Discuss the process,
We're gonna do that
absolutely.
tonight, though, right?
Yes,
All right.
yep, okay, Karen?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting, it's the Open Space and Recreation Committee.
Okay.
And Recreation. That's from the state.
And that's just for the record, separate from the rec commission, which is an
Yes.
elected board.
Yes.
And then, I was hoping somebody could explain to me the difference, and when we go through charges next week, we can, but the Harbor Committee and Harbor Health.
The Harbor Health Committee doesn't exist anymore, was sunsetted.
The Harbor Health?
Yep,
Okay, so we should get rid of that.
unless you want to bring it up again.
Not for this purpose, but I definitely, there are other committees that are kind of in limbo that we'll discuss after we get through this appointment process, maybe in July. So, everything else on here should be,
The only thing that I think might be additive to this is generally explaining in 2 sentences what a troika appointment means.
I thought about adding that.
Because I have to believe that folks who are just considering volunteering for something might look at that and
Think
ask the
Russian
question.
Revolution, think Rasputin.
Something
Perhaps
like that.
It does.
Just put a line in over general government, it says Board of Selectmen appointments, and then when it says Troika appointments, just parentheses, chairs of.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be anything more than that.
Yep.
Actually, it really doesn't matter to the people applying who appoints them, right?
No, but,
What matters is that the troika appointments tend to be standing committees, long-lasting. Whereas a general government committee can be shorter term, the charge can change from
Madam Chair?
board to board.
yep, I'll get you in a second. Yeah, I think it's worth just putting a little parenthetical.
Explain, yeah.
Yeah,
three people.
When I
so
was
it
first,
doesn't scare people away.
When I was first learning about Cohasset, I found the term very,
Yeah.
like, it's very unusual until I understood what it
It
is.
took me a while to
It
figure out
means you
what it
get to
is.
town in a horse-drawn
That's right,
carriage.
right. Agnes, if you have something, do
Is
you
the
mind coming
bylaw
up?
committee listed on what you're looking at? I don't have.
Yes, the
Yes, it
bylaw
is.
committee is underneath the troika
Troika.
appointments.
Oh, yeah, it's right here.
Chris, you wanna just pass that? You've already made a few changes. Okay. Any other comments in general? And also that second page that was in our packet? Anybody has any changes right now? Okay.
I think it's important to be a registered voter.
Yeah, you know, one thing I wondered whether we should add in Cohasset.
Yes, you should.
Yes,
Oh,
in
yes.
Cohasset.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. A registered voter in Cohasset.
So there's somebody in
Because a
Europe.
lot of people are probably registered voters, but if they moved here
We
2
could have
years
troika
ago, they
people
may
from
not have.
Russia.
Yeah,
Right.
people who live here who vote,
That is a very good
you know,
pickup.
might have condos or something in Boston or vote in Boston.
That's a question I had too, was whether people on these committees have to be registered voters.
Well,
In town.
there are committees where it is written in the bylaw. I believe that's the case in advisory. I know it's the case for capital budget. But otherwise, it has not ever been stated.
But you can't participate in town meeting if you're not a registered voter, I think, so.
But does that mean
You
you
can't
can't?
vote at town meeting.
You
you
can
can't-
vote, right, that's true.
You can't be a citizen, you know, who serves on the Council for Elder Affairs, for example? We should just double check with the clerk, but it's just an interesting, I mean, there's a
question.
lot
No,
of
I
people
agree.
in town that, you know, probably would get involved, but they may not be US citizens.
is it necessary to be a registered
But
voter
they've lived here forever,
Well,
right?
you can be a citizen without being a voter.
Yeah,
So maybe
Yeah.
someone chooses never to vote, I suppose.
it's
Well,
possible.
I
But
think
it's-
you
might
should
be
be a
worth it.
registered voter, because this is to be involved in the
Well,
town.
the reason to know it though is important to know if they can qualify for certain committees, I guess. is-
Right.
is what I mean, you know,
Right.
This doesn't say, do not pass go if you're not, it just asks the question.
Right.
Ask the question.
Yeah.
and
Right.
just leave it, mhm.
Yeah, would just be, we don't have to know now.
No, we
but
can- that's one of those
something to
questions,
know about
right?
would be interesting, and maybe when we really look at committees, it's something to talk about. Okay. Anybody
Excuse
wanna?
me, just one comment,
Yes,
if I may.
sure.
I just had a peek at it. Strikes me that having I am seeking reappointment as the last thing
Mm-hmm.
makes it kind of an afterthought. Maybe it should come first.
Sure, we can move that up above
Small little.
the lists of, what if we moved it under the, please indicate below the board, commission, committee that is of interest to you, and then we can just put that,
What if you move Cohasset committee application form up? Should be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then underneath it, just put new or reappointment, check boxes. It could be like right in here, just two little check boxes.
I have the old one.
Do you have the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have the old one, I don't have the new one. Do you have another one, Diane?
When I give you,
I'm thinking
That's fine, I have it.
So
move that up to the
collect,
top.
yeah, we'll give you, I'll give you the copy that I've got going. Okay. Yep. Okay. Any further comments? Okay. Motion to approve the Cohasset committee application form
As revised?
as revised.
So moved.
Secondly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so now I would like to sort of discuss, and have Tracy and Chris weigh in, just because they know the, kind of the rhythm of these inquiries, sort of the next steps. I'm hoping that at our next meeting, we can just take some time and have little descriptions, if not full charges, for each of these committees, so that we know as the appointing authority, what we're appointing people to. And I would also like to set a deadline for, without, we wanna be open and fair and reasonable, but to set a deadline to get these back, so that, we can, at our first meeting in July, have a substantive discussion about the different people who are seeking different positions on different committees.
Would it be helpful?
Are you gonna have interviews with candidates?
Usually they come here,
You
yeah.
usually do.
I think that they should.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find it very unsettling when somebody wants to be on a committee and they can't take the time to come in.
It just depends on if it's one night, if that wasn't gonna
Well,
work
if
for
there was,
somebody.
if there was a,
Working.
legitimate
Right.
excuse, a work or something like that, you can understand.
They're on
it, but-
vacation, I mean, it is July, and we could also put that off.
I think I would urge you to consider, I mean, I don't know the scope at this point of how many we have or we will have.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had, for example, 10 people for a particular slot in a committee, to interview
Nine.
all 10 of them would, again, there's 30 appointments, something or more, that are open at the
30
moment.
positions.
30 positions, something like that.
Right.
So if you had even one candidate for each one, you'd have to, I mean, I'm not suggesting it's not a good idea.
Right.
But there might be, you might want to break into some kind of subcommittees or something, and each tackle the committees that bring back your reports and recommendations. I don't know.
Mhm.
Only because it's unwieldy for all 5 of you to meet with 30 people.
Right, a lot of times they get in touch with the chairs of the committees
I'm just
too.
throwing, I mean, if you want to, we could make
Right.
more time. It's
Right.
entirely-
Why don't we try it, and if it gets unwieldy, then we
Right.
make a modification, but
That's
let's,
a
our
good
first.
problem to have.
Yeah, right, that's, our first option is, let's see if we have that nice problem, then if we do, we'll
All right.
address it.
That's fine. I'm just throwing out there, just as a logistic.
So actually, that that should help us think about how much time we wanna give people to actually apply, cause it would be helpful to know sooner rather than later what we're talking about in terms of positions and openings and interested parties.
Well, sometimes, liaisons have worked with the chairs of the committee to find out candidates. And oftentimes the committees themselves interview people to
Right.
find something. But because we're opening this up in a different way, we all should be, the board should be equally involved, I think.
So,
I agree.
do you think it would be too short of a window to say that we would ask for people's interest to be known by our next meeting, June 17th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
You think that's too short of a window, even though we've been posting it for a good month,
Well, we could
right?
make whatever appointments we can make. Certainly, it shouldn't be too short for a reappointment.
Yeah,
Why don't we do reappointments earlier and then appointments, a little more time for appointments?
I was just gonna say, I'm not suggesting we do the appointments on June 17th. I'm
Oh.
suggesting we ask for their applications back. So then we know what we're dealing with. Then we know if we have 10 people for 2 slots on zoning board, for example, then we hunker down and sit with the chair. I'm throwing it out there.
I'd respectfully suggest, as Kevin points out, that you tackle this from the understanding of what we have currently versus what we'd like to have. And what we have currently are a variety of reappointments that are required. In some cases, I'm certain, just to give committees the ability to formulate a quorum. So if that's the case, then setting a deadline of the 17th for reappointment applications makes a great deal of sense, because those members are going to know whether or not they want to apply. Sending out a little bit further, a little bit longer application deadline for new membership requests gives, I would hope, a greater momentum to gather new interest. And likewise, as a matter of tasks that we can perform, begins to spread the workload, especially if it requires us to set aside time in our meetings for interviews.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. How does that sit with everybody? So if reappointments, we'll ask for their applications back
By June 17th?
by June 17th.
Well,
Which-
what
Earlier,
about the
because it's gotta
Friday?
get in the
bef-
package.
I was gonna say,
You need
do
it-
we want them in the packet? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause,
It's all public, right?
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Well, you want to do it, well, probably the 13th is not okay either, because they come, we're closed,
Would it be the
office closes at
12th?
1, it would be the 12th,
Right.
so it's 9 days.
Well, for reappointment, I mean,
Yeah,
they
I
know
mean,
they're
just-
either gonna
that's
apply
fine.
or they're not going
Yep,
to, so.
let's do it.
I'm
What's the-
sorry, what was the date again, Chris?
12th,
12th.
that's Thursday.
Thursday.
Chris, what is the process for notifying the committee chairs? Is that going to be done by the town clerk? Would that be done by this office?
I think we've been doing it.
So I
Yeah.
sent out emails to all the board's chairmen and said, this is who's up on your committee.
Okay.
Have them, if they're interested, send a letter of interest to this office, and then we put something in the Mariner. I don't know if they put it up on the website yet. They're gonna put the list, I think Carol
I don't-
was going.
yeah, I don't
I'm not
know.
sure if it's up there yet.
I mean, fair enough, I wanted to make sure that it was something that whoever had to carry it out, in this case, it sounds like
The
it's
office,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, that we weren't overburdening the workflow.
And what we'll do is we'll circulate this new application form to all of the committees and say, please have your reappointees fill this out.
Which brings up the question, what do I do with the ones that I've received? Do I send them back and say?
No, no,
"It's
no,
not
no, no, no,
in,"
no,
or
no.
Just leave it the way it is?
They've been grandfathered.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know.
No need to fill out.
Yeah,
a-
right.
Right.
But you may just make a handwritten notation
Right.
if they're reappointments.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you had a brisk business?
No, not so
No.
much. I mean, this, like I said, I
You
haven't
have
gotten
to
any this
hit
week,
people
so
up
the
the head,
last,
right.
I think we had about 20, 25.
Yep.
Is it possible for those to be circulated to the board, so we could start looking at them?
Yeah, I hesitated to put them in this week because I didn't know if you wanted them all together, you know what I mean?
I definitely wanna see them, why don't we do it all together though, just to,
Well,
I
if
don't
you've got
think you're gonna
20
be overwhelmed, I mean.
Well, if you've got 25 already, I mean, I don't mean to contact anybody, but I'd like to start looking at them.
Right.
I mean,
I mean, some people
Yeah.
send me an email back, yes, I'd like to reapply. There's
Okay.
nothing substantial.
If it's a
If it's a
reappointment, I
reappointment.
think it's okay right now
Okay.
for that, and unless, you know,
Well, I'm kind of interested in knowing who's reapplying, and I don't know why we can't know this ahead of time.
I don't.
No, it doesn't
I don't
matter if
think
we're
we
applying
can,
like that.
because it's public information, I mean, we could come up here too. The question is, you know, should we get Tracy to make copies of all of those and get them to us this week? We don't have a
I'll
packet.
come in and look at them.
And do
I'll
that?
make myself-
Then we can do that, we can also,
Oh,
Tracy
it
can
could-
scan them in
it's
and we
a-
can
you know
email
what,
it
it's
to
a
you.
lot of email though, would be great.
All right,
Sure,
so,
that's fine.
and we'll make a hard copy, Martha, you prefer a hard copy? or-
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make one set for
But-
Martha, and we'll email the rest
But
over.
we could have it also here for everybody to look at.
So at a quick glance, all but 2 are reappointments in this pile that I have.
Oh, well, that's helpful.
Do you think, do we need like their email response, or would it be okay if Tracy just sent us, you know, the following people have applied for reappointment to the A, B, C, D, E committees? I don't know. I
I'd
just,
say whatever they sent us, send to us.
Okay, forward those along.
Yeah, but some kind of cover would be good, explaining what's in the package you're about to receive. Right? Something.
Sort of
But
like
it sounds like
a
some of
little
those, are-
appendix,
yeah, it sounds like some of those are not complete, and they're all grandfathered, but going forward, anybody who submits now, once we promulgate this, new form, this should be returned to them saying, at least fill it out minimally, or we'll fill it out because it can impact our decision, we need to have information.
Okay, and then in terms of the new membership requests, if we set a deadline for receipt of their, application forms, what would be a reasonable? So,
Is it 19, 26?
Well, the 26th would
July
give,
3rd is when we're gonna go over it, right?
well, you go around July 1st.
Is the next meeting July 3rd?
First.
A few days before that.
Do you want to give them just one more week, 6/19, and then?
Well, I don't know how many slots are gonna be open actually at the end of the
Right,
day. if we-
right, right.
Invite them to a,
But it's good there, but then we keep the people in a bank.
Yeah.
So let's say
For the
Thursday
future.
the 19th for new, membership requests.
This will be in the Mariner and public promulgated and so forth also.
And there
Yeah, Eric's gonna do a front
On the
page story
website.
about it.
We want you. All right, and then next week, we'll kind of do some of the back room, or actually, the nice thing about not having a meeting every week is we can take some time and before the packets go out for our meeting on the 17th, we can just maybe do some I really would like to have a little packet put together, just with some general information about each of these committees. And it's gonna help, you know, build those web pages that we're gonna have for each
Right,
committee.
we've already, the work on that's already happened.
Yep.
And over the next couple of days, we'll sit down and get an update as to what we stand.
Right.
If we're gonna work on the charges of these committees, is it appropriate, or when is it appropriate to have the committees themselves give us some input as to what they think their charge should be, just so that we have that? Seem to me maybe we can invite that, and we'll have that, or do we wanna do whatever we're gonna do and then send it out for their comment, or, but
So,
how do we wanna handle that?
Yeah.
Some of it is set by bylaw,
yeah,
so that's it. And if there are existing charges, which
There are.
many have already,
yeah.
it would be a matter of reviewing them to see if they're, but I think that it's the board sets the committees.
We'll do
and-
it first and then ask, we do wanna ask their comment on it anyways, right? I think we would wanna have some interaction with the committee people, just
Yeah, I
to
wasn't.
say, this is what your charge is, and we may not change it, but if you got some input, at least our ear is open to the committees.
Well, I mean, just to put it right out there, it would be sort of like saying, here's what we want you to do, but if you don't wanna do it, tell us what what you'd rather do.
Well, they're doing it, so if we
Yeah.
listen to them, and then we may not agree, but we're not ceding any of our responsibilities to set what it is, but to me, it seems like good policy for volunteers to at least have some input as to what they're doing, and then at least we listen to them, and then, as opposed, if they still have that view and we didn't solicit their view, then it might fester in there, and we never know about it. At least if they can, not fester, but it stays in there, at least let them express it, so we all kinda know who's on what page. At the end of the day, though, I agree with you, Karen, we're the ones who are gonna establish their charges, I'm not questioning that.
I think, I think most of these have charges. I mean, I already know the Cohasset Cultural Council, that's charged by the state. I mean, most of these already have, so I guess when I was talking about discussing this on the 17th, it would be more of a, more of kind of an assessment, you know, where are we with these? And certainly, you know, we should have the primary discussion about what we anticipate these committees are, but absolutely there should be input from citizens who are in the trenches. But I think we're not gonna be rewriting anything, to be honest with you.
I would suggest that,
Although maybe
while we're having this discussion, we might consider and think about constructing a policy by which committees report back to the board on a defined basis. Given that many of these committees answer, or I shouldn't say answer, are there to advise the Board of Selectmen, it's useful to have a regular, if you will, meeting, summit with them, for the purpose of determining where, you know, where they are in a particular process, a particular project, what areas they do see as part of their charge that they have, with which they've been tasked, that in fact maybe the board has not yet considered. The idea that the fact that they're closer to a given circumstance than we are can help to inform the board. And in fact, that's what a committee is supposed to do, is it's an extension of town meeting and for town meeting, working with the board to execute our charges.
Well, I think if they gave us minutes, it would be helpful. I know in the past, when I was involved earlier, we had a policy that the minutes of a board were given to the town clerk and a copy to the Board of Selectmen when we filed them. That would be a precursor to talking to committees, so we would have some idea what they're doing.
One of
A process by which those are filed makes, you know, I think is not only sensible, but I believe it's something that's now required under the open meeting law.
Well, let me follow up on that. Okay, one of the things that I've been working with our internal webpage person the last week, as we near the finish line on this, is to look at that particular question. So what's happening now is going through every committee and getting all of the current minutes and getting them up to speed, and so we're getting
Right.
So they'll all be available on the web, up to the current structure, or the agendas will be obviously on the calendars as we have them, or a version of that. So that'll all be there, so people can look at them and get updates, and you can look at them anytime you want. By the way, some of the best boards are this one and a few others that are, some of the others have been keeping them, but they just haven't been accessible.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, yeah,
They
so
are.
right, no, so, but the good news is that they're all pulling together, and again, I think we've decided internally that the best way to do this is to run them all through the clerk. It just makes the most sense. She's the keeper of records. It makes the most sense for committees to all file them with the clerk. She posts them up on the web, and then we have permanent records.
Right. This whole committee discussion has so much caretaking, I think, that needs to take place. You know, to Kevin's point about the charges, I mean, we are charging these committees. Obviously, there's a practical function that committees end up falling into when they're doing what they're doing that we should be aware of. And, you know, how do you get that? Do you get that through reports? Do you get that through minutes? There's also, you know, how they should function. And they should, you know, we have, I think, as the town has a responsibility to help these committees do their job, to know that they need a chairman, or, you know, they need to do, you know, they need a quorum, they need minutes, the minutes need to be approved, the minutes need to be filed this way. So I do see this as a much bigger conversation that,
I think too, one of the things I wanted to bring up on a future agenda was liaison reports. We all go and attend meetings and talk to the different people.
Well, I often
You do,
report.
Martha.
In
You're
fact,
very-
I have comments.
Yeah, you're very good, but I think that.
you're our A student.
Yes.
How's that?
You know, we could do a better, I could do a better job in in reporting on the various committees. So that might be helpful too, because it would help to inform the other members of the board just exactly what is going on throughout the town. So I don't know, just do it during selectmen comment, or we have a special time for it, or.
Yeah, maybe it's something that, when we have our retreat, I do see this whole
Mhm.
thing as a very big conversation that I certainly see it as something that should necessitate a lot of future conversations. So we will make sure we talk about this going forward. Right now, we've got the application form, we have deadlines of the 12th for reappointments and the 19th, is that right, for people that are new interest on a new committee.
One of the other things, if I might, Madam Chair, is that the previous board had set a standards and expectations that the different boards, and I think the advisory board was the only board to adopt it that I'm aware of. I know Peter reported that the advisory board adopted it. I'd like to see us follow up on that also and make that, when they do their reorganization, that's something that each committee does to do that. And we did a standards and expectations, which should be provided. That would provide people with a lot of the information. Some of the work's been done, we're just not very good at implementing
Pulling it
it.
together, and I think Chris has, and I know Jen, Tracy, and Chris have worked on it a lot lately, so we're gonna get there.
I didn't say them, I said us.
No, and us. I mean, there's a lot, we need to keep this committee structure healthy and functioning and people feeling good about it.
Well, the key is that once we get it back up to that level, it's a lot easier to maintain it than to get there in the first place.
Yeah. But we're almost there, we just don't know it.
If you're able to get that software, that would be fabulous.
Well, yeah, actually, I signed off on that yesterday, so
Oh, good.
the clerk is in the process of moving that forward. So that'll help with the record keeping.
Yes.
So, on this topic, I just wanted to ask or discuss liaisons, and one of the things that
I didn't.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't put it on the agenda, but I just want to ask maybe a simple request, which is that everybody review the liaison assignments from last year. And I say this every year, but when somebody rolls off the board, if that happens, whoever's new just takes over that person's committee, and I don't see that as necessarily the way to go, and then you kind of stay with those committees till you're no longer on the board. So what I would like to recommend is that each board member take some time and send Tracy a list of the committees you want to be a liaison to. And then we'll compile the list, and we'll have Diane's top 4, and Karen, and Steve's, and Kevin's, and Martha's top 4, and then we'll figure out where we're not covered, or what might make more sense for different people. 2 people want to do 2 boards that tend to meet on a Monday night, we'll play with that later in the month. But in the meantime, just everybody kind of look at the list and say, these are the ones that I really want to get in the,
Well, a lot of them.
get involved
you
with.
have 2 liaisons.
And a lot of them you do have too,
'Cause
so.
I've continued
Yep.
everything I'm doing.
Yep.
Because I have found that, I've been doing them for 2 years, that you really got a feel for the committees.
Yeah.
And some are, committees that are elected and some aren't, and all of them are very diligent committees.
And that's just
And
some.
that, I think, is a very good feeling for Cohasset. People say, oh, they don't do anything, or what do they do? And I found that all the committees that I go to, and sometimes I go with others that conflict, I find that they all are really working very hard. And it's really, we have good people that are applying.
So I would use the application form to see the committees that exist, recognize too all the elected committees that exist, school committee, board of health, planning board, rec, sewer, water. So you all know those. And then the different departments, police, fire, and DPW typically have selectmen liaisons. And just get those to Tracy, and then we'll start playing around with those, over the next month or so.
Thank you.
All right?
So we were gonna discuss on this application, the reporting on it, can we discuss that now? I had a
Sure.
thought,
Yeah.
It's just that I wanna make sure, or I'll suggest that on a regular basis, this sort of gets the application out, and then for this year or for this period of time, those that are interested in review, but I'd like to see at least on a quarterly, if not sooner basis, that we as selectmen get a package that gives us all of the applicants that have applied for any position during the year, so that we have that, you know, I'd say once a quarter at least, and then you could, at your discretion, put it on the agenda if you want, or we can make comments on it if we want, but I'd like to set that up as a policy that we have. I don't know whether we need to vote on it or just decide to do it, but once a quarter, I think we should all get all the applications in the sense so that we all know who's applying for what.
So,
And then more importantly, those that are applying know that it's gonna be paid attention
they're-
to and seen by all of the
Right.
board members.
so I think, just, I would defer to Tracy just in kind of, just to know how, do we get a lot of off-cycle applications?
No.
Okay.
Usually, like I got one from town meeting from the booklet.
Right. So
Occasionally, someone will drop in.
maybe all it is a
But I
matter of, at this point, just letting us know that
Put it in your
whenever
packet.
we receive,
Yeah.
put it in a packet. And
That's
and you
right.
actually
We
have put
do
one in the
that,
packet.
we do get them in the
We do.
packet.
Okay,
So if
so
somebody applies
that's fine. So
off-cycle.
as long as during the year, because this can be up on the website, and hopefully we get more of them, we know that anybody who sends an application, we're gonna have it in our
You always
package.
have it.
That's fine with me. That's even sooner than once a
Yeah,
quarter.
yes.
and more importantly, what I would like to do when we're done with this whole application thing at the end of the month, and we've made the appointments, and reappointments, you know, by mid-July, I would like to reach out to everybody who didn't get selected for a committee for whatever reason, and just say, thank you for your interest, we're gonna keep your form, you know, just, it's terrible when you send something out there and and I know that we've been responding, I just wanna make sure we keep up with that, and that is something we are committed to doing, keeping everybody in the loop.
Good.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on that matter, or we'll move on? So, I'm gonna ask my colleague here to speak, just because my mouth is starting to dry up, but, Karen and I met with, Lisa, who's the HR consultant, to discuss, the mechanism, the paper, or the form that we're gonna fill out, for the town manager review. Do you mind just giving them a quick little update, and then I'll jump in?
No, it was a very productive meeting, and we reviewed, excuse me, two of the forms, basically the one from Lexington and also the one from Texas, Burleson, Texas, from the, that was the one that came from the ICMA. And made some revisions and some comments and had good discussion and feedback. Diane then made some revisions to the first part of it, the specific goals and objectives. And Lisa was gonna go back and do some wordsmithing on the second part of it. And then we will get that. We will comment on it. We'll either meet again with Lisa, or we'll have a email correspondence, whatever works best for everybody, and have that ready for review on the 17th.
Yep, we got a big, full meeting on the 17th. So what we'll do is, we will have the tool, the review tool, ready through the back and forth process for the 17th for us to approve, for the board to approve as the document, or make whatever edits we need to do. There's a lot to it. A lot of it is based on goals and objectives that we've discussed. A lot of it is more, you know, leadership skills, mentoring, communications, things like that. And what Lisa recommended, and I think Karen and I both agreed made sense, was that each member of the board would fill out this form independently on their own. And if they felt like they needed to interact with Chris on it, on just a one-to-one basis, that would be okay. But each member would fill out the form, and it would become part of the personnel files. It would not be public. And then, probably Karen and I will take those 5 different assessments and we will form one, we'll put them together and come up with one document that will be used for his review in public. That will become a public document. And we will probably do that late July, which we would need to set a meeting, hopefully we're gonna stay on track. And I think what we would be looking for is if we approve the document on the 17th, we would probably get it out to each board member very soon thereafter and give them 2 to 3 weeks to fill it out and get it back to us to assemble. Does that sound like it makes sense to everybody?
So July 15th is the target. Well, that's
Is-
exactly 6 months, so we're not quite there.
Okay,
Yeah.
is that a Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
Okay.
And
Right.
has the town, Chris, had input into the form?
Yes, and he will. In some areas, she very specifically asked us to share with him some of the things, and there is a piece in there where where we will all work kind of collectively to build part 5, I think it is, which is basically his goals and objectives, which at the time of the meeting in July will be right after we've had our board goals and objectives on June 26th. So hopefully, and then that will set in place goals and objectives for FY15 that he will be reviewed again on in another year.
Well, I don't wanna lose sight of the fact that Chris made mention that he would like to be reviewed quarterly,
Well, I think we should have just a dialogue.
a dialogue
Yes.
quarterly.
Good, yeah.
Right.
Fine with me.
Absolutely.
I think
Doesn't
it's
that happen
important
every
though
Tuesday?
to maybe not formalize that, but have some written.
We can put that into the goals and objectives, and we will have quarterly updates on this. just
Right.
as-
Right,
yeah.
but when we have the quarterly updates, I think that it would be important to commit that to writing.
The process for it or the actual updates? Or both?
Probably both, but,
No, it should be.
but
no.
maybe not both if it's going to be, I guess we should discuss that in our goals
Let's
and
discuss it.
objectives.
Yep.
As to whether, how
How formal we
or
wanna be.
informal it's going to be, but I think that if the board is giving the town manager, any kind of a review and putting things, that it's important for both parties to have that in writing and sign off on it so that everybody understands exactly what was done and said.
Okay, so look for that again in your very thick packet, unless you're Kevin and you get it electronically.
Right, I'll get it in my hand.
I am going to, pardon me, I did a lot of office cleaning today, and I have more paper going to the transfers than I would like. And so I've asked Tracy to send me the next packet both ways, so I can just experiment with it and see.
If you want any suggestions on PDF programs, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I can recommend one for you.
Thank you.
I'll join that. I don't have an iPad, so I wouldn't be able to do it, but send it to me electronically,
Okay.
both, and I'll do the same
Oh, you
thing.
have a laptop?
I have a laptop, yeah. It's not as fun, it's not as cool as an iPad.
Well, I just have the baby iPad.
Well, I have to get the town website back on this new computer.
We just have to go in and set it for you, or it's there.
Yeah, I know, I keep going back to,
It's out there.
If I
well, I
could-
know that, but they didn't transfer. Apple didn't transfer all the stuff they were supposed to.
Oh, your bookmarks didn't make it over, so they
That's
just need to
right.
be reset.
Okay, so we are staying ahead of the game, unless any other comments on town manager review? So the Gatehouse Media letter, we discussed a few weeks ago, writing a letter to the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Mariner, just about the post-election cartoon. So the letter's in your packet, but I will read it just for those that are out there. And Dear Mr. Oliveri, who's the publisher, the undersigned members of the Cohasset Board of Selectmen are writing to register our displeasure with the post-election cartoon printed in the Cohasset Mariner, Friday, May 16 edition. While we recognize and appreciate the paper's fundamental right to print the cartoon and engage in political satire, We were taken aback by the depiction of violence and the character's use of guns. In today's society, such imagery is unsettling and does not accurately reflect the values of our community. Respectfully, members of the Cohasset Board of Selectmen.
I think this is very adequate. It recognizes the rights of the Fourth Estate in publishing things, but it also recognizes the fundamental problems in depiction of violence, which seems to be categorized right now in society, seems to be at a very high gear. So if you'd like a motion, I would approve.
Yeah, I just,
Unless you want to
yeah, I
discuss
just want to
first.
take a little discussion.
Discussion
Steve?
first,
Yeah.
okay.
You might recall that I abstained from the
Mhm.
original because I hadn't seen the cartoon.
Mhm.
I've since seen the cartoon. I didn't think it was particularly funny, but at the same time, I think it's even less funny that we as a board want to spend time lecturing and wagging our fingers about the First Amendment rights of the newspaper, rather than gauging our own behavior. Before we decide that we're disturbed by a cartoon, we might respectfully acknowledge ourselves in the way that we behave toward our fellow citizens, former employees, and general attitudes. Frankly, we have a mechanism for policing a newspaper, and it's called a market response. And if it's so upsetting, and we believe that we speak for the community, but guess what? The community is going to speak for itself, the paper's going to fold, and it won't exist anymore, except maybe as an online blog spot. Now, realistically, I haven't seen that the Mariners complain that they're going out of business tomorrow because a cartoon is destroyed their circulation. I'm much more concerned that we're spending our precious time, and more importantly, the town's time, because they elected us to do this, to work on the town's business rather than wagging our fingers at a newspaper. Last but not least, you're elected. Each of us are elected. And as elected officials, we generally speaking encounter things said about ourselves or about the work that we do, which is less than complimentary, but that's part of the deal. I think it's time we pulled up our big girl and big boy pants and got on with the job, as opposed to continuing to point our fingers at everybody else. Was it tasteful? I don't know. I'll let the public determine that. But I don't pretend for a moment to be party to speaking for the town, because frankly, I have heard absolutely no one say boo to me about it. And I frankly don't find it offensive, I just don't find it very funny. So I wouldn't dignify this letter with a vote.
Well, and that's fair, you don't have to.
I'm not going, I
That's-
appreciate your time.
If you know, if you want me to add, what I was gonna recommend on the signing is, I wrote on the letter in your packet, members of the Cohasset Board of Selectmen, and what we'll just do is anybody who's willing to sign it can just individually. I don't wanna take up time either. It's over and done with. I was very uncomfortable with it, and, I just wanna register my displeasure with it, and I don't want to take up town time on it.
Well, at risk of taking up more town time, I think the Mariner and Steve, and maybe the tone of this letter, I'm happy with the letter, and thank you very much for doing it, Diane. It kind of misses the point, and if you will indulge me for a moment, I'm gonna pass these out. Tracy, can you put that slide up so people at home can, do you have it? Oh, no? No, I don't. Never mind, that's okay. I took a picture, for those at home, I took a picture of a sign that's right outside our town hall. And it's been there forever. It's the ADL. This is a no place for hate community. And unlike Steve, I have had a number of people approach me, and that's why I said it. I've had a number of people approach me since then, thank me for saying it, and also continue to voice their displeasure about it. But let me be, and since Mary Ford chose to represent this in her response as an attack on the press's First Amendment rights, she chose to misrepresent my statements of that evening. So let me be perfectly clear that my comments about the bullet cartoon were in no way meant to restrict the Mariner or any press's right to free speech under the First Amendment. In
the sign, I've walked past that sign a gazillion times, we all have. How often do we stop to think what it means? Maybe it's time we as a community did. Through the hard work of citizens, Cohasset is a member of the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate. It's a network of more than 50 communities throughout New England. This initiative provides a framework for combating bias, bullying, and hatred, and leading to long-term solutions for creating and maintaining a positive climate. Let me repeat that. Creating and maintaining a positive climate. Last year, I ran on that, and that is the context in which I was speaking. It would be nice if the board, as Cohasset's highest elected officials, set an example by recommitting itself tonight to the ideals of no place for hate. Tracy, don't worry about it. No, it's okay.
Well, about it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Karen. I don't wanna, I would love to have the no place for hate, or the ADL come in and talk to us about it. I think that's something that we can do when we reaffirm the, what was the, sorry, I can't remember. The code of ethics. And I would rather do that. I wanna, you know, I hope I can get a motion to approve this letter. Kevin and Martha, Martha spoke, but you have anything else to say or add?
I don't even want to say.
Well, I will reiterate, I had many people comment, all kinds of spectrum, whether they voted for Fred or any of the people, they just, but I will make a motion to approve the letter to be sent to the Mariner publisher and CC to Greg Mathis and Mary Ford.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor and willing to sign it, please specify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, nay?
I said I wasn't gonna dignify it with a vote.
All right, abstain. So Kevin was an aye? All right. So Tracy, I'll just get signed places for everybody.
Thank you again, Diane, for doing that.
Yes, thank you again. It's very difficult to do something like this.
Just because I can't get the last word in, you know, I had all of the above. I had people comment that they were glad we talked about it. I had people glad we were writing the letter. And I had somebody send me an email, it was not Steve, that said, let's put on your big girl pants and grow up. So it's all over the place. We're not trying to derail anybody or stop anybody's rights. We just wanted to make a statement, so, as individuals, not as a board.
Madam Chair, we ran over the update on the subcommittee. Oh, no, we did that, I'm sorry. I read it, that was me.
So we're now at licenses, permits, and Tracy has those.
So the art festival was already approved, and these are the vendors, they give us a vendor list of who's gonna, provide food at the.
Do we have
Yeah,
to,
we need a vote.
do we have to vote this?
Yeah.
So why don't you give them to me, Martha, I'll read the
Yeah,
licenses
okay.
into the record, and then
Okay.
we can take a vote on it.
Fine.
So these are for food vendors at the Arts Festival, Laconia Greek Products, Kettle Masters of New England, sale of kettle corn, Dave and Jerry's, sale of french fries, hot dogs, ice, and beverages, Timmy's Foods, sale of gyros, falafel, fruit salad, Country Store Fudge, sale of packaged food with no prep on site. And those are the food, one day, or the, I guess it's a 3-day food permits. I'll have a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. You can sign those, Martha. And then, there's 2 other licenses for the South Shore Arts Center. One is a 1-day liquor license for a cocktail reception to be held at the South Shore Arts Center on June 14th. And the second is an entertainment license during the 3-day arts festival, musical entertainment, amplification, and recorded music Friday, June 13th through Sunday, June 15th. So I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Second, okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. Minute. Okay, town manager update.
Okay, I did let you all know on Friday when I got the word, but the town has been accepted into the Massachusetts Municipal Performance Management Program.
Wonderful.
Something I talked about and won support for from you and from the advisory committee and from town meetings. So I'll be talking to the director tomorrow to coordinate the timing. So I'm hoping this will begin sometime later in the summer. And the initial program is 5 months, and it will focus on police and fire. That's how they like to start this. Though I'm going to see if I can maybe get some others going on the side at the same time, but we'll see. So we're going to start definitely with police and fire with the folks from UMass Boston. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be a great start, and we'll see where we go. So that was good news. And on a kind of a parallel track to that, I've been following up on this question of Commonwealth Connect. I don't know if anyone has seen the C-Click Fix. C-Click Fix is a web-based citizen outreach program that allows people to, for example, you're on the street, you see a broken street light, or you see a sign, a pothole, you take a picture, you send it in,
Uh-oh.
and it gets processed. Now, Boston did something, they called it Citizen Connect. The state thought it was a great idea and decided to stretch that and make it Commonwealth Connect. It's now in the hands of the MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and I've reached out to their contact, and we're on the list for the next rollout. I don't know when that's going to be, either later this summer or in the fall. They're still compiling communities. There will be a buy-in, so obviously we'll have to agree to buy into that. I don't know anything more about it than it's been very successful in terms of the buy-in. That they brought the cost down, and again, as I know more, I'll let you know. But I'm just pursuing that option, an avenue for further information.
And I'm sorry because I got up, but
Yeah.
is it a web-based thing? Is there
Yes.
an app for that?
There's an app for that. There most certainly is. In fact, you can download the Commonwealth Connect app now. It's not going to connect to us yet, but
Right.
there's a couple dozen communities in Massachusetts that are already in. Again, it started in Boston, and it's going to spread. But I think it's something that would take us from paper to electronics overnight. So
Will that integrate with the performance management
yes,
program?
well certainly. Well, in a big sense, yes. I mean, because the data coming out of that really becomes some of the beginnings of our benchmark around service, and we can decide what the things are that people can connect back to us. So, yeah, it integrates very well, and actually, but again, the MAPC is still developing the criteria for their rollout of this, because they're the state grant recipient for this, so they're managing the program. So, but I also did that on Friday. Today, Tracy, Jen, and I attended a program on liquor licensing with a group of Massachusetts municipalities that meet annually. The ABCC director was there, as well as his new council and licensing authorities from all over the Commonwealth. So it was a great opportunity to meet some folks, to hear some more updates. It's always reaffirmed a few things you already knew. You learn a few more new things, and you learn more people to talk to about how it works. So I think it was a good program. But I've discovered that getting from here to Rentham is also a little bit of a challenge sometimes. That's what
Can't
it was
get
today.
there
So
from here.
You can't get there from here. So I learned that since they're doing road work in Quincy, it's not a good idea to go through Quincy at this point. So I've learned that there's probably don't follow the GPS. So, but I've learned a couple backways today, so it was good. Last Friday, also on another update, I met with a gentleman named Seth Pickering, who's the regional coordinator for the Mass Green Communities program. Again, it's another state entity or state program, I should say, that's designed to move communities into more greener energy and greener energy use policies. And they've encouraged, well, Seth most certainly encouraged us, but to become a green community. There's a 5-part checklist.
We did this before, but it never happened.
No, correct. So they've changed. The town did look into it, but not pursue it. And a lot of number of our neighbors have done it, a number have not. There are a couple of, again, I won't go into the great detail about it now, but I'll circulate more information to all of you. But I think I think it's attainable. We have some cohorts in other parts of the state, Sherburne being one of them that have done it. So I believe Situate's done it as well, but they're different. I mean, they have a different, but so it can be done, and it opens up the community to grant opportunities right away. Providing it continues going in the future. There's a first year grant that's population based, and then it goes from there for new opportunities. So by the way, it could help with energy efficiency and town buildings and programs, and so it's definitely worth pursuing. So we had a good meeting. He offered to help. Mr. Pickering also offered to help us, by the way, on some other issues too, including overcoming the issues with National Grid and the street lighting project.
Really?
So he actually sent me an email today. So on that, so he's going to assist us with that to try to get over the hurdle with National Grid.
He's from the state?
I don't have his card with me right now, but
Yeah.
I believe if he's not the regional coordinator, it's some title like that. So the southeast region of the state is his. And he wants to get, and there's not as many communities that are participating as he'd like. So I met him Friday afternoon for a couple of hours. It was good. So.
The Alternative Energy Committee has been doing a lot of work on that, so we should try to
Mhm.
dovetail their efforts into this.
Yeah, some of this does involve some building code issues, and also, and so planning, the commission will have to be part of this. And we'll get there. Plenty
Yeah,
of-
they're meeting Thursday night, and they're having, I can't remember, I think they're having the representative from, Brian knows.
Yes.
It's a
I've been
very, very
I've
good
been-
community.
It's a good committee, and they've been
Very
doing
good.
quite a bit of work on the energy efficiency and the rebates available, and they're working very hard on it.
And earlier when Tana Bodell was chair, she was getting a lot of information on panels and,
Well, I mean, I think the town was
very
really
good.
close, yeah.
and we were working on that.
And now it's just a matter of seeing if we can revisit it and get us over the finish line. Now, I know there's gonna be an administration at the end of the year, no matter what, but if we get to the pipeline, I don't think a lot of these programs are gonna radically go away. A lot of them make economic sense. But, we might as well, explore it, and if the town wants to go forward, we can make it work, then we should consider it.
That alternative energy committee too, we should kind of put on a double asterisk, because they're set to sunset, I believe. I don't wanna.
We should
don't write-
continue it, we
Yeah,
really should.
but it's a troika appointment, so
Yeah.
just gonna make sure we're on
And
top
I've
of
met
that.
with several, I've been working with the membership more individually, Brian more collectively on some issues.
And just to clarify, I don't 100% know they're supposed to sunset, but everybody's term expires at the end of this month. So
Oh.
that leads me to believe that they might have only been established for a fixed period of time, so we should probably make sure
We'll
we're
double
on
check
top of
that.
that. Okay,
I'll have, that's the quick report for.
great, thank you. Okay. Selectmen.
Oh, by the way, one last thing. I am going to Thursday with 3 of you to Worcester to a Department of Revenue Selectman training program. So Martha, Karen, and Kevin and I we'll be on the road to Worcester.
Worcester.
So on Thursday. So,
With
so we'll come
GPS.
back. Yes, with GPS. So we'll all come back with even more financial knowledge. We'll be very excited.
Fabulous, thank you.
Scary.
And some notes, right?
Notes, notes and packets,
For
yes.
those of us that can't make it. Okay, Selectmen update, Martha, you wanna start?
Yeah, well, I went to a couple of boards. I was at the planning board meeting and at the hearing of 8 Smith Place, which was continuing the street. That is a condo development, which is near to our water, the well fields. And, it was very well handled. All the members asked the most deep and thorough and knowledgeable questions. I haven't been to a hearing where there was a discussion like that, and it was back and forth for a long, long time. It was about 2 hours. It was very, very impressive. And it's going to continue again in July. They have issues were brought up in relation with the water. If they do the blasting, the water commission is concerned it might crack the pipes. And they have an engineer, and they're going to meet with the water board because the engineer suggested if they did do the blasting, it was approved, then they'd have to have a bond to repair any damage. And they had other things in the meeting, but the planning board really, it was very impressive. And then I also went to the historical commission group last night, and they have a little, using a little pamphlet that David Wadsworth did for the Historical Society, and they were using that maybe to hand out at John Smith Day. We went over that, but we also, the committee is also going to sell historical books at the Arts Festival. We're gonna have a little table and all the ones.
In front of Town Hall?
Yeah, and they don't meet until September again. And the John Smith group is meeting the 16th of September. And then I also got today, which everybody else did, from Sandy Beach Association. This is a marvelous letter, and I think everybody should give some money to them because they work so hard, and because of all the damage, it shows the pictures here. And I called Robin and commended him for this. Everybody uses, it's a little jewel, one of the jewels of our town. And I think, and they work very hard, and I think just, even if you've only got $5, just give some money appreciated. And they're hardworking, and they do a wonderful job. So, that's it.
Thank you. Karen?
Well, Steve's gonna be upset with me again. Because it was brought up again by a resident and because it was the topic of a Mariner cartoon, I wanted to share with the board a conversation I had on May 15th with Hannah Rush, who's an Assistant Attorney General in Division of Open Government. And this is in regard to the use of electronic devices during public meetings. Attorney Rush indicated to me that this is the issue on which they received the most questions. And while it is under discussion by the AG's office, there is no definitive guidance available at this time. However, the consensus is that since the purpose of the open meeting law is to ensure access to all conversation to everyone participating in the meeting, such use, as it relates to town government topics, violates the spirit of the open meeting law. This does not apply to personal messages or usage not related to public business, such as monitoring sports events. While outside the AG's purview, Attorney Rush touched on the usage of electronic devices as it relates to the public records law. While referring me to the Secretary of State's office, she reminded me that any electronic message, email, or text on any device relating to town business must be saved and is subject to FOIA. It is my opinion that it's our responsibility to make it clear to family and friends that we are unavailable except for a true emergency during public meetings, and that doing the job of the public elected us to do deserves our full attention. That's all I have.
That I fully intend to put this on an agenda as soon as possible, and I actually have reached out to a number of friends in different communities who are selectmen and school committee people, just to find out if there are any policies. And I've gotten mixed answers. Most people do not have policies. They have the same, there's people that want to be in touch with their kids, et cetera, et cetera. So we will absolutely put this on a future agenda and flesh this out and try to get a little more research called before then.
Diane, I forgot in lieu of this, a friend of mine who I saw at the landfill said they don't use cell phones at the FBI or the IRS.
Oh,
I
yeah?
said, how did you know? He says, I've been both places.
We're not gonna say who that is, right?
And I didn't ask any further.
Steve?
I'm not mad at Karen, I don't take it personally, frankly, I think it's, I fit within all the guidelines. Having said that, I know for a fact that the IRS uses any electronic device they can.
But not at their meetings.
I've yet to go to an IRS meeting that was friendly, so, at this point, I think I'll just let that be.
And I've never been to one, so I don't know.
They're, The only comment that I have tonight is one that wishes to say thank you once again. I'd like you and Kevin, as well as Chris, we had the opportunity to attend the Citizen of the Year celebration. And I have to say that, once again, for the second time in 2 weeks, it was a very humbling experience, not just to be around folks like, like Jack Buckley, who was honored, but it was just as endearing to see so many of the former citizens of the year in attendance and likewise acknowledged. At a time when it's easier to call someone names, to accuse them of wrongdoing without proof, to be nasty in any number of different ways. Here are people that show up, simply do the task, ask for no thanks, other than to make sure that the job was well done. And it's simply a matter of saying, once again, thank you, Jack Buckley, thank you to every single one of those people who were so honored in the past. That is the spirit which I would hope to emulate.
I was walking downtown before the meeting, and Jack rode by me.
Yeah.
He was running back from the harbor. We talked for a few minutes and
Yeah.
hopped on his bike and kept riding. So.
I was very.
It's a good one.
It was unfortunate that I couldn't go, but I went to my youngest grandson's graduation at Winchester High, and which was a very moving one. And unfortunately, I didn't get back to Cohasset till 7 o'clock. So I couldn't go.
It was another beautiful day in Atlantica. Kevin?
So, as Steve had said, the Citizens of the Year Award reception that Jack Buckley, did attend as well. And one thing that really struck me is when Jack himself got up and spoke, he particularly noted and pointed all around the room, all through his life here in Cohasset, and he's been here a long time and worked on a lot of different projects about so-and-so worked on this, or this couldn't have been done with help from over here. And he cited so many different citizens that it was very clear. He was very generous in his remarks, and he wanted particularly to make the point that he wouldn't be there receiving Citizens of the Year if it wasn't for all the other citizens that helped create that. And it really brought the point home to me that it takes a whole community to be working together to produce a Citizen of the Year. And I think Jack was clearly making that point. And I just thought it was very touching, and I enjoyed the whole ceremony, and it was very nice, the whole reception.
And just close it with the one thing about Jack too is he just deflects everything from himself. It was all about CSCR and CMI and organizations and all the other people that kind of did it. And it was so funny. Mary Ford did a fabulous job, and she literally there's I think 21. Jack was the 21st Citizen of the Year, and she talked about each one of them. So
Right.
that was really inspiring. And I'm going to call out Dick Avery because she was going on about all the things he did and why he was named Citizen of the Year a few years ago. And all I could think of was Dick walks all the time and picks up trash. And I was like waiting for her to say that that's why he was the Citizen of the Year, and of course it wasn't. But that's how that's how good people operate. They do it all over the place. Okay, so we have some minutes to approve, May 20th and May 27th. Anybody note any issues?
Yes, I just had a question on the reappointment of the Social Regional School. I could be getting my conversations confused. I thought I recalled that Kenny said that they needed a certain number of schools to sign on, and that number had, but they thought there were going to be more, and he would get back.
I
I'll
think
check the tape, I don't think,
No?
I don't think
I didn't
so.
get it
that was,
way.
that was the,
So he just wasn't sure, and he would get back to the board in a couple of
Okay.
weeks. But
I think so.
I can listen to the tape.
No, don't bother.
You asked the question, Steve, right? Do you remember his answer?
remember Kenny's answer about whether other people had formed the
He didn't have-
capital?
He did not have an answer.
All right.
I didn't have the answer, but we knew that they have to be 5 majority of the group.
I don't believe he knew what the final
No,
vote
he
was.
didn't.
probably follow up too, see if he ever found out, or we can call and find out.
The other thing I questioned was on the carriage nursery school, where, let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line down, where it says it was omitted on the application. It really wasn't omitted on the application, we just didn't ask the right questions. It was right there on the application. I mean, if you wanna say it was omitted that it was a mechanical ride, that's,
Okay.
that's correct, but.
Or I can just take it out.
Just take out that sentence.
All right. All right, on page 2, fourth line down, it's just a little inversion, that this not is, it should be is not. And under memorial, would you just take that last sentence out? I don't think that's appropriate.
The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, just take that, I mean, leave in the rest of it, but just like that.
Yep.
In there. And that's it, that I found.
Any other changes or edits? Eagle eyes, I guess, this week. Okay. Motion to approve the minutes of May 20th?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes of May 27th?
No, I did not find it.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May?
You forgot one thing, yeah. Add there.
Okay.
Got the flowers.
Okay. As, any, motion, to approve the minutes of 5:27 as amended?
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
aye.
Okay. I have no topics reasonably anticipated. So I will call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Hold on a second. Mr. Pescatori?
Thank you, Peter Pescatori, 12 Lansing Lane. Chris, on any further movement on getting that boat out of the harbor? Were you
Yes.
becoming?
Yeah, no.
Were you becoming?
There's a representative of the owner now in process working with Lori to move the boat from the harbor, so it's in progress. So I do not believe that the town will need to expend any funds.
Okay, well, my last meeting of the year is June 12th, a week from Thursday.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you're sitting there. This reminded me of Mary's, the advisory board and the selectmen must meet jointly at the last meeting. We're gonna do on July, just to let you know, on July 1st, I need you to be in attendance so we can close out the books. If we need to, you need to move jointly any changes.
And it would be it will be
It'd be the FY.
this current advisory
Correct.
board.
Yes. July 1, the fiscal year closed at 30th, so since we have a selectmen's meeting already on July 1st, we might as well just do it on July 1st. I don't know what we'll have to do yet, but I'm just letting you all know.
Peter, you'll need a quorum for that?
I don't know. Do I need a quorum for that?
If it's a joint meeting of the board,
Probably,
yes.
yes.
Yes, yes, you need a quorum.
If I would expect there'll be something that they'll have to be done.
What night, what day is
It's a
July
Tuesday.
3rd?
It's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
That's a tough week.
And that's a tough week.
Um,
If it's a problem, we'd have to either move it back to the 26th, which is then as you're doing your
She may not have her
planning.
books all closed.
That's true. Well, we're not gonna have them all closed on the first either, but
Right.
the big stuff we'll have. I mean, little stuff is not as big a deal. But,
Peter, I don't recall doing this before.
this is
No.
just in case we have to. She
No,
wanted.
this,
I
normally,
I like the idea of it, but.
there's a form that has to be filled out for all of the arbitrages that you go through because you know what.
Oh, I know what that word means.
You know, an account is underspent, an account is overspent, and all those changes have to be documented that they are within the limits set by the law. And there's guidelines about they only move 5%. Anyway, I'm gonna, you know what the rules are. But they're supposed to be signed off on, all of them.
the big ones that town meeting had to do were done.
Yeah.
But now that this is the
There's always
final
cleanup
cleanup.
at the
Yep,
end of the year.
yep. And that's a joint,
Yes.
Does it have to be July 1st? I mean,
Well,
given the
has
dates
to
and
be-
so on, can it be the week
July
prior?
8th?
No, it could be done the week prior.
Or likewise, does it have to be done?
Well,
We have more information.
I'm gonna just cancel my,
July 12th.
yeah, the June 12th meeting, I'm gonna cancel it if we're gonna have another one within 2 weeks. Because I don't really have that much agenda to
Well,
work on.
if we need to do it, July 1st just happened to fit perfectly because the selectmen's meeting already scheduled. And I'm under the impression, having talked to Mary, there will have to be some modifications made to the budget, and
There
the
always-
advisory and selectmen are jointly empowered to make those changes. So
okay.
it's easier to do it all at one time than to do it.
Yeah, I'll just reschedule my meeting
Alright.
to coincide with that one,
Let's
because there's
plan for
nothing,
that
yeah,
then.
there's nothing pressing that, yeah.
I would mention it next week, but we might as well have a longer advance time, so you can be sure you could have a quorum there.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing, so the vote is taken care of, you
The
won't,
vote-
you won't be needing a reserve
As of the
fund?
update I got from Lori, either Friday or yesterday, we're fine.
Okay. And the other thing, with the discussion of the Alternative Energy Committee, it piqued my brain came awake, and there was supposed to be a contract signed back October 1st or in October to start the solar array at the landfill. And can we?
No,
do
the
we
company,
know-
the company, as I understand it, again, the town was not approved of the program. It didn't, the town's project didn't make the cutoff, number one.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking, what is the status?
No, the
Because
status is
I've
that
lost
it went back to
track
ground.
of it.
It went back to ground, it went back to reset.
Okay.
So that's, the committee is now looking at it all over again, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
So they're in their meeting sometime this month. We should probably try to get them to come in and give us an update.
The meeting
because-
Thursday.
There's a lot of moving
Thursday.
pieces on energy issues.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Peter.
Peter.
I don't remember his last name, but Sean,
Selah, I think, or something like
Selah.
that.
he's
Yeah.
very excellent.
Fabulous.
I can see the spelling of it, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It seems simple.
Selah, it's S-E-L-H-A,
I think so.
Anyway, if you're out there watching. Okay, I think Martha made an earlier motion to adjourn.
Yes, I did.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
18 minutes early.